and welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm your host, Linda Smith. As our unwanted pet population grows, more and more innovative ways of caring for these unwanted and discarded animals are necessary. My guests tonight are Victoria Hague, who's an animal fosterer, and Meredith Buist, who is an active participant in the trap and neuter return. It's return, not release, right?
Yes.
And they'll be telling us tonight how their involvement benefits the animals and the community. Victoria, Meredith, I'm so glad to have both of you on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You know, as we get started, I'd like to just briefly have each of you tell us what's involved with what you do, and we'll start with you, Victoria.
Okay, so I've been doing a lot of fostering, and so basically taking in of animals either from the Humane Society or stray animals that don't have a place to go. Adults or kittens, providing them a safe and caring place to either get well from illness, keep away from illness, become socialized, and grow. If they're tiny kittens, then they need a place other than a shelter or an outdoor environment generally to grow so they don't become sick and they grow properly.
And what about you, Meredith? The TNR, I think that's such a good program.
It's great. Yeah, I've been thrilled that we have this available, and anybody can be involved in it and learn how to do it. And I've been doing it, I guess, avidly for a couple years now. So
I just think it's that you are able to do this and return, and it's mostly a cat program, correct?
yes.
Return them back to where you got them, and then they don't overpopulate. I just think that's a wonderful thing. All right. What organizations do you all work with, if any, or are you independent in what you do?
My fostering, I've personally done fostering for the Lynchburg Humane Society, generally with litters of kittens. Over the last few months, I've also done working with Meredith, some stray kittens and or cats who needed a place to go, and or pulling animals from shelters where they were going to be euthanized in order to find them another home. So it's a variety. You don't have to necessarily stick with one Humane Society. You can go out on your own, or you can stick with one that you feel personally attached to.
And what about you?
Well, the program that I've been utilizing is set up through the Lynchburg Humane Society via some grant money through PetSmart charities that they were able to obtain for the trap neuter return.
That's wonderful.
And but I do help people in other counties if they just need to borrow traps, need to learn how to trap. I mean, I'm willing to help anybody anywhere that wants to learn how to do this, because it's a great service. And
you all have the background, the training. You know what you're doing. You've been doing it long enough, so I'm sure you're a terrific asset in these areas.
I think with fostering, if you grew up with pets, there are certain things that obviously you do have to learn how to do. But I mean, if you know how, with fostering kittens, if they have a mother, it's just so easy. People don't realize if you have a mother cat and kittens, if you have a spare bedroom, and the mother does all the work. Right. She really does. People think kittens, they need a lot of help, but they need socialization and to be watched out over. But the mama cat is ridiculously caring for these kittens generally. So it's way easier than people think it is, and it's very rewarding.
Do you ever foster dogs?
I personally don't, because I have 3 cats and I live in a small apartment. Lots of people do. I know that there are lots of puppies available right now to foster also that need it just as much as cats do. They are also susceptible to illnesses, and also a lot of humane societies offer programs where you can foster a certain dog that maybe you've become attached to as a volunteer to help socialize them, teach them skills that would make them more adoptable.
What's the goal for any animal fostering program?
Well, I think it depends necessarily on the animal, but I think a lot of people tend to focus on kitten fostering, which is very necessary in the springtime.
Right.
The main goal of that is to get kittens as soon as basically as soon as they get in the shelter, to get them out, because one, you need to keep them away from illness. So kittens, from the day they're born, are very susceptible to illnesses that can kill them, unfortunately, very quickly. Mother cats are usually very good about, keeping them safe and clean and everything, but you have to protect them from illness. In shelters, they're very susceptible, so you want to keep them well. You want to make sure they grow up, in a healthy environment, that they grow properly, and that what's great about a foster program is you can socialize them with children and with other pets and with lots of people. So, you know, if they grew up in a shelter environment, they might be more shy and be harder to adopt, when you could end up with a bunch of kittens who are very social with people and very people-oriented.
So that was going to be my next question. Why do these animals need fostering?
Yeah.
And you know, you've just given a whole list of why they need it.
I think by far, you know, the socialization part is important, but I don't think people realize that as soon as a kitten, you know, enters the shelter, they try to do a really good job about keeping clean, but there are just certain illnesses you cannot prevent with that many animals in one place, and all sorts of things. So if you can get them out, you know, right away, you automatically, you know, protect them, and then they can get their vaccinations a lot of times when they're with you or back at the shelter, but come back to you so that they can, you know, build up immunities when they're away from the other illnesses.
So those are certainly very important advantages to the animal.
Yes.
Now, for people who are likely to adopt the animals that you fostered, what advantages are there to them?
Well, they've already learned several skills, so you can make sure that they've learned to use the litter box properly. I personally have other cats, so not only do they live with their siblings if they have siblings, but they can then interact with other animals, which is also good for the dog program, because then they can, you know, interact with lots of different kinds of animals. They can interact with lots of types of people, get used to noises that are normal in a household, vacuum cleaners, dishwashers, that types of things, that if they grew up in a shelter environment, they would have never heard before and might be semi-traumatizing to them. So they just have a better idea of what they're going into, I think. So used to people picking them up, you know, that type of thing is really good for them.
I think the advantages to the shelters are obvious. Because
it helps them save lives too. You know, the more animals that are out of the shelter, the more they can take in, and you know, a lot of Lynchburg Humane Society is going towards no-kill, but you know, it's difficult, and there are lots of shelters that are not no-kill, unfortunately. But the more animals you can pull from there to foster, you're automatically saving lives, because they're not going to be euthanized. And it also gives you an opportunity, a really fun opportunity, to be able to help find them homes where you can keep in contact with them. I've been lucky to keep in contact with several of my foster families who have adopted, and it's so much fun to be able to see them to grow into, you know, adults. It's just great.
So you do help find the families?
You can, if you're working with the Humane Society directly, you don't have to. You can bring them right back and they'll find them homes. But I think it's, you know, been really fun, especially with all the social networking that we can do, to be able to find homes where you can keep in contact with the people. So it's been great to be able to do that.
What time of the year is the need greatest for fostering? I mean, I know
it's usually always, but I'd say springtime is the most. You know, that's the time when we think of baby animals, and there's a reason for that. There will be more and more and more baby animals right now. So if you are interested in fostering anyone, this is the time to sign up. And you know, Humane Societies will call you about when they need foster families.
Now, do you get to select animals that you want to foster, or are you?
Well, usually at Humane Societies, you can request a certain type of animal, or you can just say, I can take a mother cat and kittens, which is generally I think one of the easier things to do. Then there are certain people who have the skills to do bottle feeding, which is much more demanding but very rewarding.
Did you do that when the mother's not?
Yeah, that's generally when people bring in very small kittens or puppies that need round-the-clock care, which, you know, generally involves waking up during the night and feeding them with formula. But it's, you know, that takes a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. I mean, those animals count on you like nobody else. So, you know, especially, you know, I always think it's just a great learning experience for people, either people who have never had children or people who don't have children anymore, that would be a really great thing for them to do, great learning experience. It really helps something that is depending on you.
And how about expenses when you're doing this? Does somebody reimburse you? Do you take it out of your own pocket?
Well, I think it completely depends. I think the Humane Society is willing to, you know, reimburse you generally for your vet expenses. You know, there is a cost to fostering. I would say you know, you're really responsible for feeding them. You can go to the shelter and they will give you food and litter, but you know, that takes time out of your day and stuff. I say generally you pay for food and litter and that type of thing. For vet care, they'll generally reimburse you unless there's like a doctor. I particularly like to work with Peaksview, and Peaksview does do a lot of work with the Lynchburg Humane Society, but you know, if you want something in particular done a certain way, then you probably will pay for the vet bills yourself. But in the same way you know it's getting done, and you know they don't have to go back to the shelter to do any of that. So it can be very low cost, or it depends on what your feelings are about it.
Right. I mean, it would be hard not to.
Right.
I think not to do
And
that.
it depends on emergency situations and stuff like that don't generally come up, but you'll see.
How much of your own time is involved in doing something like this?
Well, with the mother cat and kittens, it's kind of up to you. And if everything is going smoothly and she's really taking care of them in the beginning, you just kind of let her do her own thing, and she's nursing and give her food and water and take care of her and let it go. But as they grow up, you have to spend time with them to interact, teach them social skills, make sure everything is going correctly there. But really, I think people generally think of it taking more time than it actually does. If you have, a pet of your own, you take care of that pet, but it's not everything that you do. Fostering, you're getting a lot done without having to put a ton of effort out usually. Cats are great because they're, a lot of times very self-sufficient. So, and so you can provide a lot of help by not having to do as much as you would think you'd have to do.
Well, how does that impact your lifestyle? Like, you're young.
Right. And I'm lucky because I have family members where if I needed them to come by and check on them, that's fine. But I've left town when I've had fosters before. Someone comes to check on my cats to make sure, but that doesn't mean I leave for a week. If I leave for the weekend, have someone come in, check, make sure everything's okay. But it's not like, unless I have a bottle feeder, when that's just a whole different thing. That's like having a baby. And it's great. It's like, you're right, but it's like having a baby. So, but with a mother cat and kittens or with an adult cat, eventually, they do their own thing, and they're happy to see you and happy to get fed, but they're all right on their own.
Now, here is a question that I can see myself in your position. Do you end up keeping some of these animals, getting attached to them? I would keep probably every cat that came through my door.
It's hard, and I think every person I talk to about fostering, when I tell them about all the cute kittens I have, they always say that. It's like, well, I could never foster because I would want to keep them all. And I say, it's better than that, because you get to find them really good homes where you can only supply so much love to so many animals who are your own, when you could pass them on to someone who can give them all the love that they could need and keep track of them that way. So it's great because you can give them to someone who really does have the time and love to take care of them. And then, you can do it for another cat. You can save another life. If you keep them, there's only so much you can do. So you can just keep passing it on.
And that's a wonderful attitude to have when you consider these people who are hoarders and they just keep taking.
Right, and they think it's the right thing to do. And there's so much love to be passed on in the world that why keep it all to yourself? Really?
Well, I just know I have a house full of cats. Meredith, when did you become involved with the trap neuter return?
Well, actually, I actually trapped technically my first cat back in like 1996.
So you've been doing this a while.
Without what we have now, which is like the humane live traps, which make it a lot easier. I had to befriend a cat for months to finally get her to go into a regular pet carrier like you would bring your cat to the vet in. And that's when I first became aware of what a huge problem it was, because I had seen this cat. She lived in my apartment complex at the time, and I'd seen her have a couple litter of kittens, and a couple of neighbors and I were feeding her, and I said, I can't watch this cat have one more litter of kittens outside in the cold. I know one of the kittens had been hit by a car, which was horrible. And I said, I got to do something about this. I can't just sit back and watch this go on.
Right.
So I just somehow befriended her enough to kind of coax her into a carrier at that time, and so that's what I did. And so ever since then, I've had an awareness of the need for spay and neuter and how important it is.
Now, this is aimed primarily at the feral cat population, is that right?
Yeah, basically any free roaming cat or any cat outdoors that's contributing to the population outside is a target. Yeah.
Now, are there specific areas that should be targeted locations for this? I mean,
really, the Lynchburg Humane Society, the particular program, it covers any resident in the city of Lynchburg. So cats that do not technically belong to anyone and you know they're not spayed or neutered and they are roaming around free outside, are eligible to be spayed, neutered under this free program. So the target areas would be, you know, if you live in a neighborhood and you happen to notice you have an abundance of strays and you know you don't think that they belong to anybody, and you've kind of checked around with your neighbors and you've all kind of drawn the conclusion, well, I guess they're just stray animals, and you know we need to get them spayed and neutered. So let's get them into the clinic.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's such a wonderful program. Now, there are a lot of people. Are there a lot of people who are volunteers to do this?
not as many as I would like to see. I know it's kind of a new thing, you know, it's not that new, but I know it seems maybe overwhelming or maybe intimidating to some people. So I would like to see more and more involvement in this. You know, it's something that you can be as involved with it as much as you want, as little or as much as you want. Like say you just want to take care of the ones in your own neighborhood. Great. If everyone just did that much, we would get a huge leg up on this issue. You know, it would be, you know, making huge strides. So, you know, if everybody just took it upon themselves just to, you know, maybe, you know, if maybe you have work somewhere and you notice them, you know, behind a restaurant or behind your place of work, and you say, oh, you know, there's some strays over here that probably need to be spayed and neutered, and, you know, maybe try to take action and do something, you know, if you have that capability. And, you know, it's really easier than what it seems. So
Do we have specific cat colonies? I've heard, you know, you see that on television, that there are cat colonies and people go and do this. And
it's true, there are many colonies. We've trapped a lot of the colonies around. I'm sure there are many that still need to be trapped, but you know, they're, you know, typical around any food source, you know, whether it be behind a restaurant or maybe a grocery store, or you know, maybe there are caring people that feed them and they just need help getting them spayed and neutered, and they just need assistance. So yeah, there are definitely cat colonies for sure.
now we have a 16-year-old cat. Getting him into a cat carrier to go anywhere is really, it's a challenge. How in the world do you trap these feral cats?
Well, luckily, we don't have to try to get them to go into carriers. We have what's called a humane live trap, and you simply bait the trap with something delicious that cats love, like, you know, canned cat food, tuna or sardines or things like that. And you set it in a place where you typically see the cat frequently, and you hope that they take the bait and go in, and the door just simply closes behind them and they're nice and safe in there, and then you just cover them up, keep them nice and calm until you can get them into, you know, the clinic.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you have a trap
Yes.
with you. You want to show it to us?
Absolutely. Here's a good example of a trap, and I can show you exactly how easy it is to use this. You just push the door open like this, and this has a little hook here where it holds the door open.
I see.
This metal plate here is what the cat will step on to trigger the door to close. So as they go back, you place the food typically just
Right here.
you know, on a little cut up piece of newspaper, paper plate, or what do you have lying around the house. You put the food all the way back. You can line them with newspaper, a couple sheets of newspaper, and trail the food in a little bit, just kind of trail it in a little bit and get them to go all the way back. That's the key to the main dish. And the door just simply, you know, closes behind them.
They shut the door themselves.
And they shut the door themselves. You never come in contact with the cat. It's not dangerous. It's actually very safe. You never have to handle the cat. You want to quickly cover them up with a sheet or a towel,
Right.
just to keep them nice and secure feeling and safe.
It's good to see the trap and to see what
Yeah.
kind of trap it is. Are there veterinarians that volunteer their time and stuff for this?
Well, Not right now. I don't know of any veterinarians that actually do, the spay and neuter for feral cats. The spay and neuter clinic in Evington is the one that actually takes in all of the cats through the program.
I've heard about them.
Yeah. So that's actually where you would take the animal, after you trap them. So say you trap them one evening, say you decided you had a stray in your neighborhood and you thought, I'm going to put this trap out this evening, Sunday evening or something, and then you would have to get them to the clinic, first thing in the morning. So you could call and make an appointment, or for feral cats, they just kind of take them as you are able to get them, because they know it's kind of hard to make an appointment for sure and know that you're going to have the cat, because it's kind of a hit or miss thing. So
Do they also get rabies shots?
they do. That is included with the free program. So it includes the spay or neuter and a rabies vaccination.
Now, how can you tell that you've already neutered a cat if you return it back to the colony or back to the area where it's living with other cats?
That's a great question. What they do in order to identify the ones that have already been spayed and neutered is called ear tipping, and basically they cut the ear just at the very tip, just to identify that cat's already been neutered and vaccinated. So if that cat happens to go in a trap again, you just double check their ear. Oh, that one's already been done, just let them go, move on to the next one.
And it's minimally painful for the cat.
It's just the very tip, of the ear, so it's very minimal.
I'd equate it to getting your ears pierced or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Probably not as bad
And
as
it's just a little squared off bit, like just
Yeah.
the top of
just
it.
the very
so,
tip, so
yeah.
it's kind of flattened rather than, rounded
Rounded,
like
right.
that. Yeah.
And as nearly as either one of you can tell, has TNR made a difference, or can you tell, because there's so many cats that are continuing to be born?
Well, I know once we have this program a little bit longer, I'm sure we'll be able to get more data on that. I know that, the individual caretakers of colonies and things have noticed a huge reduction in, no more new cats being born into the colonies and things like that. So,
Believe it or not, we've only got about 5 more minutes, and you all brought some pictures. And Phil, if you'll put them up on the, we'll try to look at all of them in this next 5 minutes.
This is an idea for an inexpensive way to make feral cat housing, keep them warm in the winter.
Wonderful.
You can get these storage containers at, pretty much any, like Walmart or Home Depot or a place like that. And you can line them with insulation or stuff them with straw, things like that.
And that's the trap you just showed
There's
us.
the trap. And, you can borrow these traps from the Lynchburg Humane Society, or I've ordered some off of online, like Amazon. You can get them for, in the range of maybe $35, $40. They're relatively inexpensive.
Great. I like that.
And it's true.
It is true.
And that's kind of the fostering logo, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Right.
very cute.
I love that little picture.
And this was a little cat Meredith found actually when she was very tiny, and she had an eye infection, and she came and stayed at my house for a little while after staying at Meredith's house, and she got adopted by a very nice lady who was the mother of another foster parent of mine. So just another one of those times when it really connected between
Wonderful.
foster people. That was my first foster family, and they were really great. They came to me when they were very, very tiny, and it was a wild experience, but it was a good one for my first one. And you can see you get all varieties. That was my second big litter. All those kittens went to great homes, and the mama
Wonderful.
cat got adopted too.
Great.
It's also really fun. You get to name all the kittens that all come to you, so you get all sorts of crazy names. They were all named after cities in Virginia. And the mother was Virginia. Oh. And I always say that, people always see these kitten calendars and they think, oh, how do they get these kittens to do that? And they just do it by themselves. They're just so ridiculously cute. So that was Winchester and Fairfax. So, and they were very, very sweet. It's so fun to have them in the house.
That's
And
some
there they
precious
were too,
pictures.
and that's when they're first trying to get out of the carrier. Like I said, the mom watching over them to make sure nothing happens, and so if they started squealing, she'd just grab them and pull them back in. So I was just there watching. She was really taking care of what was going on there.
All right, we have time for one more picture, Phil.
Oh, just being cute again. Stacks of kittens.
I just love them. All right, we're going to have to stop with the pictures because we're running out of time, but I thank you both for coming.
Thanks for having us.
I think it's wonderful what you do, and, pets are people too,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned that they
They're
are.
wonderful. But if anybody wants to foster or do TNR, I'm sure you can contact the Humane Society or anything like that too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. My next show will feature ovarian cancer and the Relay for Life. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.